All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. Let's begin this morning with Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb. The state's chief executive has spent much of the week in Europe talking Indiana's economy and hoping to convince corporate leaders to bring more jobs to the state. One other part of that trip, the governor's one-on-one with News 8 government and political reporter Garrett Bergquist.
And joining us now from Europe, Governor Eric Holcomb. Governor, thank you for joining us. What are you hearing from some of the CEOs of these companies you're talking to?
Well, hope, inspiration, encouragement. They know the Indiana story. Of most of the companies that we've met with are already entrenched or deeply rooted in the state of Indiana, or potentially have been expanding their business. I'm talking about Roche and Novartis and Dartis. Those were three companies that we met with today, and it's an exciting time and lots going on around the world. But we're strengthening our relationship by first and foremost saying thank you, and we're so grateful for your contribution to Hoosiers and all the opportunity that comes with it, but also looking for ways to expand in this time of great transition around the world.
What does the average Hoosier get out of these trips overseas?
Well, when you look at international investment, foreign direct investment in our state, the average wages are north of the average wages that we're bringing in through the IEDC. And so we're talking about north of $30 an hour. And so they complement all the domestic expansion that we're seeing in the state of Indiana, and homegrown businesses, small businesses, all the entrepreneurs. They're a complement to that, and they're of an average wage higher. And so that's why you got to understanding the world is small and all interconnected, and our employers are exporting goods around the world, and we're importing goods, and we'll grow together. Obviously, a state like Indiana that provides certainty and stability and continuity, predictability, this is a very attractive ecosystem for them to grow their operation, and we want them to grow in Indiana, not in another of the 49 states or territories.
Are there any jobs in particular you're really trying to angle for? Any particular companies you're trying to recruit that we don't currently have here in Indiana?
There are, when we go on these trips, we're, as I said, first, the Hoosier way, saying thank you. But then we're also on a fact-finding mission, trying to learn lessons during the current time, finding out what challenges there are during times of energy transition or mobility transition, the transitions that are occurring in life sciences. And so we added some meetings to this trip, multiple companies in advanced manufacturing that we're trying to lure to the state of Indiana, and more to come on that. We have to cultivate. This was an in-person visit. I am reminded on this trip in particular, and when we were in Taiwan and when we were in Korea, how important it is for in-person gatherings and meetings. And so obviously with COVID, it kind of set that into a Zoom environment to continue production, but it is so encouraging to be in person together in a boardroom, talking face to face, answering questions in person, free flowing, that you just don't get on a Zoom meeting from 3,000 miles away.
How has the war in Ukraine, and especially Russia's illegal annexation of parts of Ukraine, influenced these discussions?
Well, we spent the last couple of days in Switzerland. We spent the 2 days before that in Germany, and it's having a pronounced impact on their energy sources, and obviously energy cost and being dependent on one primary source of energy can put you in a very sticky and tricky situation. And so that can in turn have an effect on manufacturing and production levels, where you need to manufacture to meet the demand of the market worldwide. And so, we're here to first, again, say thank you. Second, to say, how can we help in this time of transition and challenge? But for sure in Europe, and not just in Germany, Eastern Europe, but it's having an effect throughout Europe. And obviously, dating back to our state's origin, the birth of our state back in 1816, we were being, immigration has played a big role in how we were founded and forged out of the forest from people coming from Europe to help build our nation. And so we're looking forward to continuing those relationships that oftentimes turn into friendships, and you can get through the tough times and also celebrate the good times when we get on the other end of this.
I want to bring this back to a couple of issues here at home. Does President Biden deserve some credit for some of the economic wins that Indiana's been scoring over the past year or two?
Well, we'll leave that to voters come the midterms and come 2024. The president is going to take credit for progress, and he's going to take fault or blame for setbacks, and just like a governor will. And it's my job to make sure I'm focused on growing the state of Indiana and providing more and more opportunity. You may have just seen our state and 49 others were just graded in terms of our employment growth, our wage growth, and our population growth. Those three key factors graded against every other state. Indiana was the only state in the nation in the Midwest to rank above the national average, outside of the West and the South, the only state in the Midwest. And so we've got to continue on that trajectory, on that path, and grow, because it's not just bringing jobs in to bring jobs in, it's bringing career opportunities in for Hoosiers. And the stronger those opportunities are, the stronger our communities are and our families are.
Now, something else on the minds of at least some voters back here at home: was the circuit judge, or rather the special judge in the first lawsuit against the abortion law, wrong to put that law on hold? I'm not going to second guess her decision or that decision. It's as I predicted. This specific law went through the legislative process. Now it's in the judicial process. And we'll let that run its course and deal with it accordingly after the fact. Now, returning to your trip overseas, where does the General Assembly come into play in terms of making some of this happen, especially as lawmakers get ready to come in January?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it is a partnership. And with our continued growth, and as we lean into getting more and more involved in entrepreneurship and design and research and development and innovation hubs, as we continue to see our state grow, we've got to make sure that we're cultivating those grounds, those fields, so to speak. And so absolutely, our workforce development program, Switzerland has kind of cornered the market or perfected the apprenticeship program approach. And so we've taken note of that for years, but we really want to step that up. That will require legislative buy-in as well, and appropriation, to make sure we're giving more Hoosiers the ability to learn and skill up for the jobs, the economy of the future that we're chasing. Because again, these are very high wage, high demand jobs. And it's, if you simplify it, the more you learn, the more you earn. It's continuous learning, lifelong learning. We've got to have those pathways funded. We have them. I want more of them. And I believe the legislature shares that sentiment as well.
Governor Eric Holcomb joining us from his trade mission in Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, coming up, the president takes a major step on changing the nation's marijuana laws. Reaction from the candidates for the Marion County Prosecutor's Office when we come back. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics. As we turn now to President Biden's dramatic announcement on Thursday about marijuana. The president will issue pardons for thousands of Americans who have federal convictions for simple marijuana possession. He also wants every governor in the country to do the same thing at the state level. President Biden also wants the federal government to review marijuana policies, a move that could lead to decriminalization. Now, current Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears announced 3 years ago that he would no longer prosecute simple marijuana possession charges.
These prior marijuana convictions. I don't think people realize that some of the collateral consequences to these types of offenses are precludes a lot of people from financial aid when they're trying to apply for student loans. We see a lot of people who are excluding from housing because of these prior convictions. And we meet a lot of people who are either unemployed or underemployed because of their past criminal history, specifically as it relates to drug offenses. And so this is an important step for a lot of people to move forward with their life in a positive way. It's important for people to recognize that this is just limited to people charged federally. Certainly on the state side, President Biden asked that governors follow his lead and do the same thing, pardon individuals with possession of marijuana at the state level. And so I think we're all anxious to see what type of leadership Governor Holcomb is going to demonstrate on an issue like this.
We want to show you now this reaction from Mears' Republican opponent next month, Cindy Carrasco. She tells us that many Americans are in favor of legalizing marijuana and oppose penalizing people for simple marijuana use and possession. If President Biden, she says, was serious about updating federal marijuana laws, he should call on Congress to modernize any marijuana laws that burden the criminal justice system. Carrasco also says that she won't focus on small marijuana cases, but that her prosecutor's office would use a common sense approach on a case-by-case basis and focus on all resources on reducing Marion County's historic wave of murders and violent crimes that have persisted every year that Ryan Mears has been in office. We also want to take a note this week. Next week, here on All Indiana Politics, we're going one-on-one with Cindy Carrasco and Ryan Mears to talk about the prosecutor's race. You'll see that interview 9:30 next Sunday right here on Wish TV. All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team is standing by to break down the president's move next on All Indiana Politics. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Laura Beck and Mario Maslamani, the chairman of the Hamilton County Republican Party. Good to see you both again. Let's start with the president's announcement of marijuana pardons on Thursday. Laura, we'll come to you first. There have been a lot of people in the Democratic Party hoping that he would take this step, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the Democratic Party, but it's, I think, more universal and encompasses most of the population. As we heard some great, compelling reasons from Prosecutor Mears as to why this makes sense. But it also is, I think it's the right thing to do. And it's in alignment with other states where marijuana is legal. Marijuana possession does disproportionately impact people of color. It allows police to focus more on crime. And frankly, Indiana should legalize cannabis because if we did, we would capture about $171 million in tax revenue every year if we use the Colorado model.
It's a lot of money. Yeah, Mario, we'll get your reaction on this now. I'm assuming, just from conversations that you and I have had in the past, that you agree with Laura on this.
You know, as a criminal defense attorney and also looking at just national polls and also polls that Hoosiers have participated in regarding this, yes, this is, I don't think, really a Democrat or Republican issue. I think this is something that's coming down the pipeline. I'm glad that Biden did this because I think that a lot of people, especially in the African-American communities and the Hispanic communities, are impacted because of potential not having the resources or access to attorneys. And so I think that this is a good move because having a conviction for simple possession can impact the ability to apply for colleges, apply for jobs, and also get student loan money. So I think that this is a great move. Now, the timing of it is interesting because Phil, as you have seen probably from national polls, the African-American and Hispanic communities are really being impacted by this Biden economy. And while they might not be coming out in November to vote Republican, they might stay at home. And so I think that this is a tactic that Biden is using right now to try and get the Hispanic and African-American communities to come out and vote this November.
I'll get to the politics of it all in a moment, though. But I just want to press you on one thing. Do you think folks within your party also agree with your stance on the marijuana change?
Yes. Completely. Even the representative from South Carolina earlier this year introduced a bill that would decriminalize marijuana and also look to have it changed regarding its schedule, so there could be additional testing. Because right now, the way the federal government schedules marijuana, they're really a lot of the higher education, like universities, can't do research on this to see what kind of benefits that it can have and the impact it can have on different types of diseases and how it can impact pain. So I think that both Republicans and Democrats are moving to legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana.
Laura, to Mario's point, even Cindy Carrasco, the Republican candidate for the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, seems to kind of agree on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's got to walk a fine line because she also she's got to present herself as against anything that Ryan Mears is possibly doing. And the fact that he stepped up on his very first day in office and said he wasn't going to prosecute these simple marijuana cases, I think that really endeared him to the public, maybe not so much the police, but definitely to the public and to the people he serves. It also, what it also does too, especially in Marion County, where you do have limited resources, is it does allow you to free up resources to focus on other types of crimes. Both Mario and I think, have the added insights, or I think a great fortune of having supported prosecutors in a communications role,
right,
in terms of on both sides of the aisle. So we're also coming at it from looking at it from that perspective of when you're an elected official and you have limited resources, how do you deploy those resources? And so I think it's going to have major long-term benefits. I think Prosecutor Mears has really distinguished himself already in this area. But to be against everything he is for, just to try and distinguish yourself, it's just not really going to be a winning strategy.
Right. You know what? And to further the conversation, Mario, where do we go from here? Does Governor Eric Holcomb start issuing pardons, in your opinion?
I think that he needs to have a conversation with the General Assembly and try to understand what they're projected in doing in the next couple of years. I know that there was a very good discussion in the last summer study committee regarding the use of at least medical marijuana. Here's another problem too. Most people don't realize Delta 8. And I might be tipping people off, but Delta 8 is a legal form of THC, just like Delta 9. You can go buy that in the grocery store. I have clients, and there's a lot of people in the criminal justice system right now that use Delta 8 instead of Delta 9. It gets you high. A lot of times, these products are coming in from China, so we are not really sure how they're made up or created,
right,
and the other harmful toxins that might be in it. So, for me personally, and from talking to some of my Republican colleagues, it would be nice to make sure that we have, some sort of regulation. Right now, you can go out on the streets and get marijuana fairly easily, or you can go to the gas station and get Delta 8. So if we are going to really look at focusing on crime and focusing on making sure that drugs don't impact children, then we need to better regulate it. And so the problem right now, I think, is we have too many loopholes in the law and in our criminal justice system as it pertains to not only THC, which is Delta 9, but also Delta 8, which is a legal form of what's being peddled out there in gas stations.
Yeah, so to Mara's earlier point, Laura, he talked about the politics of this and being very close to the midterm elections and the possibility of President Biden doing this because the polls are showing that some voters might not be showing up. Your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I should definitely thank Mario for giving me some tips on, Delta 8 and Delta 9. I mean, I've got something to do this afternoon, apparently. To make it purely political, I think that's not the case. I think that President Biden has shown with everything that he does, he puts a lot of time, effort, and energy into this. There's a lot of research. I think he definitely is very deliberative and sometimes maybe moves a little slower. And I really don't think that the politics of this had really anything to do with it. I think people are motivated to vote, especially because of the Dobbs decision. And in states like Indiana, where there is a near total abortion ban. So, and you've also got Donald Trump out there.
Question for both of you. Does the legislature do anything regarding this come January, yes or no? Laura, you?
No.
Mario?
No.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And, of course, we'll see you back here next week as well. We'll be right back coming up after the break. More Indiana Politics.
Take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
All right. Thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here, of course, next Sunday morning, as we are every Sunday at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network over at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.